So it was some discussion about how the husband has to lead the wife to making certain decisions, and he's the one who's in control of these decisions. And I remember coming home, I must have been about 8 or 10 years old. And in my mind, I was saying to myself, I have a brain. I'm going to use my brain. No one's going to tell me how to use my brain.
My next guest is Soncera Austin. She shares her very personal and heroic escape from what she describes as an oppressive religion. She uses her life experience in her work as a transformational life coach and speaker.
You are watching Profunda TV with host Phyllis Haynes.
It's such a pleasure to get a chance to talk with you. You are one of those fantastic YouTube renegades, somebody out with a clear message, not out to fool anybody. You have a wonderful show on YouTube, and I'm just so grateful to get a chance to interview you. So welcome.
Thank you so much, Phyllis. And thank you for allowing me to spend some time with you. Thank you so much. I love your channel.
Well, what's your mission? What is the mission that you are after? Because you have a very unique message. What's your mission to people? What's your mission and vision?
Well, my mission is after having come from a life of some traumas in terms of religious trauma and also physical trauma. From that, I learned so much, and I learned about how important it is to be self-empowered and to take control over one's life. And so from that, I want to share that with the world because it has radically changed my life. I mean, it's just developed into this really wonderful space that I'm continuing to develop and expand upon. And I want to share that with people. I want to share how they can also have the same. It's not unique to me. So that is really what my mission is, sharing this with the world. If I can just help one person, I know it's a cliche, but even if I just help one person, it will have well been worth it.
Well, I can see from your channel that you already help more than one.
Hello, my name is Soncera. Welcome to Sunny's Transformational Life Coaching, also known as Sunny TLC. This channel is devoted to anyone looking to free themselves from mental and emotional manipulation, such as I experienced in my own life. I really believe that our purpose in being here is to help ourselves advance so we can each help one another learn and grow. So my mission is to help others along their journey. You see, one can eventually turn one's life around in a way that brings joy, love, and fulfillment. I will share many stories and experiences from my life so you can see what worked for me. This will ultimately show how I changed my life, turning the challenges and breakdowns into breakthroughs, because that is what transformation is all about. So please join me, and thank you so much for tuning in.
You have accomplished a lot of what you say, but what about your story is important for people to know, and how does your story relate to others?
Well, a lot of people have been conditioned. It's a natural part of life and growing up. But unfortunately, the conditions really, as you get older and you develop yourself, you're supposed to be developing yourself on your own terms, but we get locked into the conditioning that we were trained from. It could be from for me, it was religion. And it could be other things. It could be societal things that, our peers impress upon us. And then we get locked into a certain way of being that really doesn't serve us, number one, or number two, doesn't make us feel good. We don't feel empowered when we're doing something because and the they could be anybody, want us to do it. We need to build a life where we want to fulfill our dreams. That's what we're here for, to fulfill our dreams. And part of that may be breaking away from some of the quote normal things that people have pressed upon us through the years as we've grown. So that is what this is how it has impacted me. So, and then I want to share that message.
Can you talk about some of the rules that you were under in your early years? What were some of the things that you felt trapped by?
Well, I felt trapped in, so as I said, mine was mainly religion. I was trapped into being requested to fulfill certain goals within the religious boundaries. And, it developed in me what we call a psychology of fear, obligation, and guilt, which I call fog. And this type of thinking is something that caused me to not feel good about my life. And I called into question, like, what is it that I'm doing? What is the purpose of my doing this? And it wasn't anything that I was personally enjoying or interested in. So I realized that, I had to make a decision to break away from that. And it is difficult. What made it difficult is because all the people in my life, especially parents who I was very close to, my mom, and others were heavily involved with that type of thinking. And of course, when you break away from that, you have the pressure from them. And also some of the other issues was that if you didn't live according to those standards, you were ostracized and even shunned from even being spoken to. So it was like a control mechanism that these organizations use sometimes to stop you from leaving. And so this type of mentality was really difficult. And a lot of people, unfortunately, others have even committed suicide because of the psychological repression that was, in these types of religions. So that's what a big part of what led me to finally disengage from it. And it was a difficult time, but I managed to get through it. And thankfully, I still had the support of my mother and a couple of members of my family who still were in support of me. They still engaged with me. They didn't cut me off, so that made it manageable.
So what triggered you? What discovery did you make? I mean, a lot of people are stuck in cults or in very strict religious environments, but they don't all discover that there's something else. What was it that made you see that there was another way of being?
That's a good question, because I remember specifically when I was a child, I think part of it had to do with my personality. When I was a child, I remember coming home one day after attending one of the services, and there was some discussion about women. It was also kind of misogynistic, by the way. So it was some discussion about how the husband has to lead the wife to making certain decisions, and he's the one who's in control of these decisions. And I remember coming home, I must have been about 8 or 10 years old. And in my mind, I was saying to myself, I have a brain. I'm going to use my brain. No one's going to tell me how to use my brain. And I remember that from childhood. So there must have been something in me that was, part of my persona of like, no, this isn't right. And as a child, I got it, but as you, like I said, as you get older, you get ingrained into this way of doing and being, and then you forego your natural inclination, which is a lot of us have these things as children. We have the power, we think we're superheroes, we think we can do anything in the world. But then as time goes on and you get into adulthood, you're like suppressed. So, like I said, I had that as a child. So I think it was already in me in some level because my mother had a lot of struggles when I was growing up. So I think that kind of carried over to me, and I was able to be strong enough to see the importance of having my own, discovering myself as a person.
Was there a single day, or, as they say, the straw that broke the camel's back? Um, was there a single event that said, that's it? Or was it a gradual transition away, in your view?
Well, it was gradual because I guess I'm more of a person who really plans and thinks things through. So, but I started doing some research. I also had another distant family member who enabled me to get online and pointed me to some of the websites that were speaking about this very issue. And so that kind of helped me as well. And as I became more and more familiar, I recognized the truth of the fact that this was really more like a cult organization. And I was, so it was something gradual. I mean, I realized earlier on, but I had to figure a way out. And I didn't want to disrupt my family connections too, because as I said, they encourage shunning those who leave or don't stay involved with the religion. So yeah.
Well, now you're a very successful woman. I was pointed in your direction from a fellow colleague of yours who, in fact, said this is a brilliant person from the technology field. I mean, you achieved in a field that is still new to many people, and you are I would put you in the category of scientist, technologist, engineering, mathematics. Uh, were you able to still have a career even though this was all going on?
Yes, because they recognize in the religion, they recognize that people have to work and support their families. So yes, I was still, developing. I developed my career. I went to college and finished my degree, despite their suppressing or asking people to be suppressed with uh, uh, furthering their education because it would detract from them participating in what they call the preaching work. They call it ministering to others and getting more members into the organization. So for that reason, you were, of course, still allowed to work. You had to support yourself and your family. And so, yes, so that was all going on in the background while I was, busy with my technology career.
And you achieved in that technology career. So now you're on this mission to help others. Um, are there ways that you would do it differently today if you had all this information today? What would you tell people to do to pull themselves free of the same situation that you're describing? What's the path you would recommend for people?
Well, the thing is, even though that was mostly a negative experience, the truth of it is I had to live through that in order to be in a position to say, I don't like this and I need to empower myself. So the real truth is, if I didn't experience that, I probably wouldn't be talking to you today. I probably wouldn't have a YouTube channel on this particular subject. So in some ways, it's very, and I talk about this on the channel about challenges in people's lives. They're actually there to teach us something so that we can learn and grow from it. And it's hard to see that when you're in the middle of it, you know, because you're going through the hurt and the pain of it. But then when you get past that and you can look back at it and it's in the rear view, you can then take that and say, wow, let me tell people about how wonderful life can be after leaving that, you know, situation. So
Now, we're not going to talk about any specific religion, but there are many religions that are that people join even later in life. They become very attracted to those religions, or to some of them are cults. What is the attraction of this particular one that you left? Why do you think people still join it and decide to follow it? What is the appeal?
okay, so I can actually speak to someone in my family, and give you an understanding of why that occurs. So this particular individual got involved with the same religion many decades ago, and this person felt very strongly that um, they were brought to the religion because it saved their life. They were in a really dark, unhappy life, and they were just doing all sorts of crazy things out there. And they felt that this religion centered them, got them their life organized, they got in a stable path, and then they got married, they had kids, they really excelled, and the job opportunities got better. So their mentality or perspective is, this religion saved my life. So when you speak to someone like that, I understand, I get it. That's your experience. But my experience, on the other hand, is one of suppression, one from childhood, because I was born into it. So I was born into that suppression and all of that. So I wasn't really living. I felt like I was just strangled. So that's why, you know, we can't speak to why someone would latch on to a particular religion. And I've heard this story in other religions as well. So it's not just limited to, you know, the one I was involved with. But the point is that everyone has their perspective of what is it, you know, a lot of times people are in a very dark place, that they've lost several people in their family, and then someone comes along and says, oh, well, you know, this religion talks about this particular thing, you're going to get to see them again and all this stuff. And you know, it lifts that person up and says, oh, okay, let me learn more about this religion, and then they get latched in. So that's, again, it's perspective, you know. So yeah, that happens.
So, in listening to you, I can hear that you're not anti religion, you're just anti suppression, if that's a correct way to describe you.
Yes, no, I'm not anti-religion. If you're drawn to a religion, that's fine. But the fine line comes into play when a religion starts to impose certain things on you subtly. It's a subtle process. You see, there's, you know, there's another religion that I looked into, and they were just open and free. It wasn't a focus on, well, what are you doing, and who are you speaking to, and how are you dressed, and these types of things, because that starts to cross the line of limiting your personal freedom. And that's when it turns into something darker, like a cult-like mentality, when they start to do that. So no, I'm not against religion. I just let people be free and let them learn about, you know, whatever religious teachings you have, but not trying to suppress them or trying to control them. You see, you're trying to make them feel obligated. Oh, you didn't do this. Oh, you're not good. God's not going to really appreciate you because you're going to be, you know, you're a sinner, and now you're really going to, you know, it's creating this thing about, you know, feeling bad. So it's a psychology. So that's the thing, making sure there's not mind control involved.
So, I'm looking at your channel. I want to know more about your life. So, I saw something that said, I do until I don't, was an early video. What was that one about?
Well, that was, I did a series of videos in the very beginning, speaking specifically about my religious upbringing. And that one was the last one in the series, and that talked more about the marriage that I had, which was actually overall, other than the last, 5 or 10% of it, was a decent marriage. But it was just the ending, which really was just crazy and unexpected, totally out of the blue. And that involved my husband, who had sank into a depression due to several things that had occurred in the previous, our previous years. And it was just something that brought him down to a point where I had to make a decision about if I should stay in the marriage, because I was feeling like I was being brought down also. And that's what I said. I do until I don't, because I can't have my life brought down because you're feeling bad. So that's where the clash or the trauma came from, because he was so upset that he wanted to end my life. And he attempted that as well as ending his own life. So that's what that video is about. Yeah.
That's a very serious thing to go through. We probably need another show to talk specifically about that experience alone. But were you involved in the religion? Was he involved in the religion with you at the time, or was this after you had left?
This was after I had left. So he was never a part of that. I married him after I had left also. Yes.
Okay, but there's still some parallel here, which is that at a certain point you had to have the courage to stand up for yourself. You
Yes.
had to have the courage to say, I matter, and to disengage.
Yes.
Um,
Yes, I did. I had hopefully it's okay to mention an author, but one of my favorite authors who really helped me get on this path or this journey was Louise Hay. And her world famous book, You Can Heal Your Life. So I started reading that around that time, and then it's amazing the timing of things. And it helped me to see the importance of developing a love for yourself. We're so busy out here loving everybody else. And the truth is, you're not loving anybody else unless you start with yourself. And it's hard to see that because we weren't raised that way. We were raised to, oh, help this one and help that one and do this. And what about yourself? And it's like, oh, no, 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 be selfish. But she helped me to appreciate that it's not being selfish. You're filling your cup so that you can then go out and help another. And that was such a powerful message to me. And I was like, okay. And that kind of just helped me get through all of this and have the courage to stand up for myself and say, this whole situation is really not serving me. I loved him. He protected me. He was my protector. And to see him turn into this person that suddenly was totally against me was just so heartbreaking. But I had to stand up for myself, in my life.
so he ended his life.
Well, he tried to,
But he's
and
still alive. I just want to clarify that for the viewer.
no, he's not. He tried to end his life. He was determined to end his life. So because I was able to get away from the situation, I was able to get a neighbor to call the police. That's when he was always a law-abiding citizen, but he knew if he attacked the police that they would shoot. So that's what he did. And so they ended up, unfortunately, ending his life. But
This is
that's what he
quite
wanted.
this is quite a trauma for you to get through. Even though you disengaged, it must have been a very sad time for you.
Yes, yes, it was.
So you have a lot to say about healing your life, not only from separating yourself from difficult situations, but overcoming grief.
Yes.
How would you describe yourself today?
Well, now I've delved into a lot of spiritual teachings, and those spiritual teachings help you to see that everything, and I know people have a difficult time with this, but everything that you've experienced, there's something to be learned, and there's something to help you see how it helped shape who you are. So that experience did help shape me into who I am today, and also the religious experience also helped shape me into who I am today. As I said earlier, if I hadn't experienced that, how would I be able to talk about self-empowerment? It's an irony, but the truth is, getting through those difficulties helped me become a stronger person and grow. So that's
Well, you are generous with your story. You are generous with your life. Is there anything that I haven't asked you that you want to talk about?
um well, just to, let people know that we're here to help each other. We're not, we yes, we do need to develop ourselves. But once we develop ourselves, and there's not a destination, but as we continue to develop ourselves, we are always becoming, right? So because we're always becoming, while we're doing that, and let's reach out and help another, and that's really what us being here is about. And we're really not separated. We're not, it's not, you over there, because if each person is helping each other, if each person is reaching out to another, I want to say, then imagine what kind of world we would have. It would be just an amazing world, but it has to start somewhere. And there's a lot of great people doing a lot of great work, and I want to try to make my own little contribution in my own little way.
Well, thank you for your contribution. I look forward to talking with you again in the future.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for being with us.
And thank you so much, Phyllis.